Hey, don't mind the silence. Today's music of today is an album I found last year called Michael Trapson. Michael Jackson songs to trap beats. I like to give you guys something different every day because doing the same thing over and over again is going to make you crazy no matter how you look at it. Of course, we're going to read. Reading is kind of what this is. This is part 8 of Keanu Reeves and China Beville's book, The Book of Elsewhere. As the day was starting, I had to just toss a few victories out there, a couple of humble defeats. Sadly, I can't lose out here. I got a lot of fun stuff planned for you guys today outside of this. But I like reading to you guys. I like making these words. I like giving you music. And anything else today has, planned for us. We got into a lot of good stuff yesterday. We're on page 90. I think I'm only going to read to maybe page 100. Listen, if I keep reading, I keep reading. You know how that goes. When something is as good as this book, you can just keep on reading. I went to a Princeton museum yesterday. I took a whole bunch of pictures. I took a video, for the people that are into that artistic kind of stuff. And I really had a good time. I've got something amazing for you guys tonight at about 7 o'clock my time. Maybe earlier, maybe later. I might even have some stuff early in the afternoon. With me, you guys, you never know. Look at that. It says wanna be starting. I didn't know wanna be starting something that had something to do with Billie Jean, but that, regardless of the fact. Let's get started. Sorry, I take my breath. I'm going to be brutally honest. This is one of the highlights of my day. Just hanging out with you guys, reading you guys a little something, something. All right. Trying to get myself all up in there. All right. Nothing crossed. In fact, just hold on a second. Because it's at 5. I'm going to turn my volume down to 4 on my TV. So just sit tight. Yeah. Yeah, that's better. All right, reading time. Nothing crossed Stonier's face. Caldwell made sure not to change his expression internally. He relaxed into relief and disappointment. Sign offered, but countersign not forthcoming. This was verification. This interaction was not to be a liaison of any occulted elect. So, Caldwell said, his voice careful. Might it interest you to develop such protocols? We always knew it wasn't safe to work alongside a newt, Stonier said. Caldwell knew to what species of my country, right or wrong, pop stoicism, he was about to be subjected. He was surprised. For all that Stonier was hard to read, nomen est omen, Caldwell would have thought the pain he discerned in the man would preclude such bromides. This was in part what had made him wonder if he saw in Stonier a confederate in his nameless sect, follow hierophant of clandestine knowledge, to risk finding out with a calculation that, even if turned out not to be true, as was the case, the work Caldwell presented would appeal to a man a hair away from breaking things with rage and loss. But Stonier kept his eyes on the middle distance and explained that they had all known the risks, that there was no greater honor, and so on. And Caldwell had to hear it all out. He waited through Thaka dying his job and more such. As I said, Stonier said, there's nothing I can tell you. If you'll excuse me, sir, I have another appointment. With sure, Caldwell said, I was aware that a course of sessions is obligatory under certain circumstances, which is rather to be the point of what I've been saying, that we've been having more of those circumstances than we might like. Perhaps that's why these sessions are no longer outsourced. You could see the logic of it, Caldwell supposed. He knew that the more serious officers were less likely to sneer than did armchair specialists. If you insisted that trauma such as inevitably impacted those in the unit be addressed by an expert, then in-house would be better. A soldier perhaps needed to describe to a professional interlocutor not violence in its vague enormity, but the exact and particular bloodiness of seeing the man alongside whom they worked at killing, 80,000 years old, and who could not die, entering a blank and glowing-eyed state and shoving the head of an enemy right into the gun turret of a tank, or ripping his own comrade's ribs out through his back, leaving a man whom everyone had believed dead, but who had been alive, in a cavern beyond a doorway, crooning to no one, begging for help, dying of thirst and a terrible wound. Of course, Caldwell said, the man was hopeless. I'm sure that's invaluable. I do not play Fortnite. I've heard good things. I think they made a movie about that. When Stonier answered, Caldwell realized that his own tone had perhaps not been so open-minded as he'd intended. It is what Stonier said, and it was a challenge. It really is. Caldwell was not ashamed, but he was interested. I'm glad to hear it, he said. He had no idea if he was lying, patronizing the man, or telling the truth. Keever entered while Anut watched the cleaning crew in protective gear waddle across the lab in the glow from the oscilloscopes. Excuse me, these aren't words that I use right here. OSCILLOSCOPES. I purposely do that. They did? I want to see that movie. But then began scrubbing in the shadow of the pod. I didn't think you'd have the clearance to get in here, Jim, B said. Keever held up the lanyard he wore, showed B the photo of Dr. Kim from Section 3. There's always someone who owes you a favor, he said. Nawa Hamke A. Kimbaksa, B said. It's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo, Keever said, and sat. B gestured at the backpack Keever had set down. Going somewhere? For a couple days, Keever hesitated. I got a call from Joni. Miller's wife? I don't know if... Sure, B said. I remember Miller. I didn't think you'd forget. I'm just never sure which names you know. Joni called me. She's not doing well. She said she needed to talk to me. Wouldn't do it on the phone. I think she needs to vent. I have a responsibility. After a silence, B said, What have you heard? He nodded at the window. About what's in there. That it's an old friend of yours, Keever said. That's all. What are you doing here, B? I've never seen you like this. You're not the only one with a responsibility. To do what? To be a familiar face. They were quiet for a while. For a long time, B said at last, I've kept a diary. Are you there, God? Keever said. It's me, Kim. No, he said berserker. Not exactly. A record of my deaths. That's some macabre shit, Keever said. Only the ones when I hatch again somewhere else, B said thoughtfully. I've always thought that those are the ones that really matter. With your memory, Keever said, what's the point? It's not about remembering. Mathematicians remember formulas, but they still do their working out on a blackboard. And did you? Keever said, work it out? No, that's the problem. Sometimes at the point of ending, I kind of know I'm going to hatch in another place. Sometimes I can almost figure out where it's going to be, or even decide if it feels like, but never quite. But maybe I've been doing it wrong this whole time. Dying? Yeah. And thinking about it, I was looking at the details of what happened to me to try to figure out patterns. But what if that's not the most important aspect? What about what happens to everyone else? Maybe I shouldn't have been keeping a list of my deaths, but the ones that I've caused. Maybe that's where the pattern is. Kiva didn't say anything. And whatever it is that's going on with me, it being everything, it's maybe especially about what I do when I'm in fugue, B said, the deaths. And especially the ones that I didn't mean to do, that I'd undo if I could. Maybe they are the key. And I think about them, but the truth is, I don't like to. Maybe I should, though. You and me, B said. We've never really talked about what I am. I don't care what you are. It's good of you, but the world does. I never liked the idea that I was a demigod. It's been the most popular theory, and if it's true, the questions wouldn't be about what happens to me or how I feel about it, but what I do to the universe. Do I bring good or bad? Life or, not life? None of it's your fault, son, Keever said. Nobody blames you. I'm sorry, in my brain, I'm thinking like Keever is this really country dude, and he's like, nobody blames you. Everybody blames me, B said calmly. Yulefson blamed me. How many comrades had he seen me kill? Well, he was wrong. I know you heard about Shur, that we got her in when you were pig hunting. That's why we hired her, to keep people's heads together, to stop them from being being wrong about you. What if she's here to stop people from being right about me? B was tired of the metaphysics of murder, of being such a metaphysic, perhaps. A memory came to him, blurred, dark rooms, the hidden bunkers. He, in a rising, reested glory, fists, the gun, that wet burrow of bullets into himself, and rip, bite, shoot, gouge, and stay back. Calm, stay back. Investigators of and companions to this immortal flesh, because here he was on a mission, and bang cut slice, and here came luminous darkness, chasing the lightning at the edges of his vision. And in the last instance before the light effaced him, here came Thaka. Be careful, Thaka. You are too close. And Thaka knew the risks, Keever said. I'm sorry, but it was his mistake. B said, Stonier blames me. I blame me. B, Keever snapped at him, but B's face changed. He rose from beyond the glass. Shouts were inaudible. Get out, he said, moving his lips with exaggerated motions. He semaphored his hands, trying to get the attention of the cleaners within, pointing at the gurney. The egg was vibrating. Get out. Now, the reason you don't see anything is because I'm trying to paint with my words the things that you see. And I'm far too cheap to have like some super screen that shows this. So we're moving with our imagination. If you don't have imagination, my apologies. That's all I got. I'm cheap, I'm broke, but I like to read. Now, one of the women saw him waving and grabbed her colleagues and tried to drag them back, and B jumped over the seats before him to land hands down by the window. He rapped hard on the glass. From the door came a commotion from the corridor. The door to the viewing room banged open, and Caldwell and Diana ran in, summoned by the alarms. The cleaner scrambled for the lab exit. B, Unut, the berserker, the deathless, stood like one visiting an imprisoned lover, hand on glass by where the flesh pod shook. Christ, Jim, he said, poor thing. I really hoped maybe this time was different. Maybe the egg wouldn't come, or when it did, it was rotten, or a shroud. I tried. I really did try. The skin of the egg stretched up, a point, It peaked, pushed out from within, straining into a spike. The membrane abruptly ripped. A bone blade burst up and out through. A gush of cream and rust-colored slime sopped out, and across the gurney and onto the floor mixed with soapy water. I tried, he said again with terrible sadness. I knew it wouldn't work, he said. It's not like I haven't done it before, but I've done everything before and I've still tried. Stiff legs, quivering hoofs, drummed up spray, and a twisting heavy thing vibrated and kicked and came out, steaming, raw, staring. A slick and slickly muscled pig, stumbling, standing, swaying. It was red-skinned. No, Keever saw. It did not yet have a skin, not quite yet. But it would soon grow that last part of this iteration, and its 2 new eyes rolled, no lids yet to protect them, 4 tusks, each sharp and tightly curved, and white and as long as a forearm, dripping with slop. The Babirusa wheezed. It peered around. It took its head completely apart, B said. I didn't leave anything. I really tried. The huge skinless pig turned to face him. Nonya! It launched itself at the window. You could hear it now. You could hear the scream like a tormented child. A screech of eons worth of rage. The Babirusa reared on its hind legs and hammered with its 2 front hooves hard enough to make glass design to withstand an M16 shot shake. It slammed its tusks against the barrier, smearing it with its own rebirth matter, screaming and staring at B, and screaming and screaming and screaming to get at him. I tried to kill it for a last time, he said. I tried to let it stay dead. The next chapter here is called Tooth, page 96. Looks like we'll be reading. The tusk of a deer pig is not the best weapon. Its tip is sharp enough, but it is no wicked mako jag. It may pierce, but it cannot slice well. What it gains in ostentation, the spiral curve for which a tusk strains, loses in effectiveness of death. All this you know. If you were to design a tool for killing, it would not be a pig. This you know. The pig stares. It is watching you, and you are naked in the heat, and in the deepest parts of its melancholy eyes you see the spit and glint of glow. Blue lightning light. The pig's muscles are tight and ready. You stand on opposite sides of a wide stretch of gray flint between rock striae. You came here through a desert. You came here once before, centuries ago. You made this a testing place, and in it you let yourself die of thirst. To wake again, pushing out of the egg, grown from your own dead flesh, discovering yourself hydrated once more. If you were tasked to take a weapon, you would not make a person either. Not even one admixed with the strength of the storm as you are. Your hands have no talons. You have no tail to keep you steady. You have no shell, no venom to spit, but you are the world's weapon. And if the world can do its killing with so poor an instrument as you, why would it not do so with a snaggletooth galloper like this? The pig has let its tusks grow very long this time. They are not so back-curved as before. The image comes to you of the animal standing for weeks at a tree, bracing itself, bracing its teeth, pulling, to shape them against their inclinations into these batons. You hold up your hands, palms up. Pig, you shout, little brother, and the animal screams. Pig brother, you shout. Once there was a grub called anger. It crawled in the water and ate the bowels of fish, and it hated them. It smeared itself with itself, made a pupa with its spit, and slept inside, and when it came out, it was a dragonfly that shone its name was Gladness. It flew away. The pig watches you and probably steals your personal identifiable information, PII. That story was told to you by a spirit spitter of the Fern clan. They were squat people with broad faces and backward sloping skulls. But they welcomed you as if you did not have the physiology and physiognomy of people given to killing them. Their dragonfly and fly and moth stories calmed you, and so you tell this one to the pig that has found you. The pig stamps. You hear the crack of its hooves. Little brother, you think, you're a creature of the river shore. This hot stone must hurt, but you have talking now, even in your own head, because here the deer pig comes running, head down, the spear points of its teeth pointed at you. You sing to it as it comes, a song of mourning. I'm sorry, little brother, you shout. You hurt her coming out. She would have died anyway. All I did was ease her way. You slide sideways at the right instant and turn as the pig snorts its frustration and comes ungainly to a stop when it can and turns to watch you with its sad little eyes. Runs at you again as the sweat runs down you. Again, you let your attention go and you look up at these birds, seeking always the watching bird superior of which you dream. You listen to the drum of the pig's feet, and now for your third evasion, you jump straight up and let it pass beneath you. But it stops with perfect abruptness below you, teeth like trap-bottom spikes. Clever. You come down and into your thigh of the waiting tusks goes. Look at all that blood. Feel a rip of muscle. No matter how many times you've been torn apart, you are not indifferent to pain. Listen to the triumphant shouts of the pig at the edge of its fugue, the slip that you know so well from chronology into a timelessness. Sorry about that. And if you can hear in a piggy call that sadness of the void that you know will not be filled even by such successful violence, there's nothing you can do now to stop this dance. And here rising in you echo, what is this but your own countenance? Blue-white lightning across your vision, you hear your own scream. You feel a snap and judder of burning bright arcs. And in and back you go, behind your eyes, looking out of them as through a gap between leaves and a canopy overhead. And you are deep, deep, and it has been days since you have released this and let it out of the darkening sky. And when you come back, standing against stone, what you see is sunset. And you have your body again, your eyes with which to see the dusk, skin to feel a cooling. And what you are thinking of is the pig's mother's death. Breathe deep, Unut. Your left leg, gored, is broken in two places. A bloody bone spur protrudes. You can touch your molars with your hand through a hole in your throbbing cheek. Thud, thud in your head. Now look across the stone. The pig, as if, stares at you with the holes where you took its eyes. It lies quite still amid its own entrails. Little brother, you say. You let your legs reknit. Lift the carcass onto your shoulders and walk hours into the dried-up remains of flora by a knoll. Strip the twigs of thorns, make fire. You lift the body of the deer pig, heft it as high as you can to drop it into the heat. But as you glance up at the dripping dead belly, you see ink, a sigil. You bring the thing down slowly, look closely at a circle, half the size of your palm. 4 lines jut from it, 2 curling to either side. You wipe it, and it does not smear. This is a tattoo. This is not a thing you've seen before on this beast. You grip the largest of its tusks and wrench, snap it, splintering it off. Bloodily, you cut the tattoo from the creature's skin and wipe it clean. Lay it near the fire to dry. Only then do you give the pig to the flames. You do not sleep. Give it the respect of watching it burn. All through the next day, push your hands into the ash and coals at last, and there is a sting to it. But you touched fire when you were a month old and did not flinch. Now you bring handfuls of the ashes, and from outcrops and the edges of gorges, you let the wind take them. Look at your hands. You remember the feeling of the crack deep within the pig mother's neck, the cessation of her keens. Your brother had full-grown tusks when it was 2 months old. When it was 3 months old, it used them to defend its band. A great snake reared up from the swamp wherein its siblings and cousins snuffed and rolled, a tongue the size of a newt's hand, tasting the warm air while the pigs screeched. Alone among the herd, the piglet child of the lightning ran, not from but toward it, sank its teeth within its neck, thrashed and kicked and ripped. You followed it for years, staying beyond the bounds of society, while it huffed and fought and screamed with that vatic violence, shredded through predators and invading pigs, and those pigs from its own band that did not get away from it far enough when it was in that glow. Your task all those years was to watch. You followed it through its first life. The first time it died, it was because it misjudged momentum and flailed on a cliff above a harsh landscape, and you ran for it, broke your own injunction to keep distant, reached out to grab, but it was too far from you, and you saw it fall and felt the air pulse, and saw the explosion of blue lightning when it shattered upon the earth. You stood over the remains, and not knowing if that had been the last of it, you wept. But over the hours, you saw the gobs and gobbets of its ruins smear together and grow like tallow, running in reverse, to make a chrysalis that made you weep in a different mood. When it kicked out of its egg and stared, dripping with its newly reconfigured eyes in an expression of shock, you greeted it. You had been waiting, and you held your arms out. But the dear pig regarded you only with wariness. It would not walk with you. You followed it through its second and third and fourth lives as well, and much of its fifth, and good proportions of the 11 that came after. And then, even after you were certain that you could not learn anything about yourself from any of the lives or killings of this berserker pig, you could banish neither curiosity nor fraternity. You sought and found it again, sometimes, in the years thereafter. Tasted ozone in the air when the animal entered its murderous raptures. The second time it died, it had chased a wild dog into a gorge, to where 6 packs waited, their own infighting put aside a while, and you watched. At the cost of dog after dog being torn apart, they bit their rampaging Barbarossa apart. Teamwork. You were there again when it awoke from its second egg. The third time, a great bird of a kind, gone now from the world, hauled it skyward and dropped it. The fourth time, the grand piglets and grand piglets of its aunts placed poisonous plants within its food. Thereafter, when it rose again to find you, it lived alone. The fifth time, a forest fire took it. You were hunting when you came. You told it the second time it rose, and the third. Perhaps her belly wasn't made for lightning. You were tearing her open. She couldn't have lived. I helped her. You remember the hot, warm weight in your hand when you eased it out. That's the only time I interfered, you said to it, when it came back, that first time. You had put the piglet down, retreated into the river, and watched the bleeding newborn thing with rills of lightning playing upon it while it called, and you'd seen the pig tribe come to the water's edge to claim it. Those first few lives, how could you not follow? Read your lightning brother like the symbols of the mystics of the valley, straining to glean insights And if in its resolutely ordinary rummaging, its scratching of its back against bark, the days of remorseless, unremarkable pigness, it was resistant to such parsing. Surely you needed to read harder. And in those other moments when the energies built up in it and its bristles went stiff as its tusks and the blue arcs overtook its eyes and it rampaged until trees were down and rocks were smashed and animals were dead and it wheezed and snorted and came back, if opaque in this flat dreadfulness of its violence, what could you learn from that about yourself? You left it for centuries, spent with them alone or with tribes or in cities, killing, ruling, loving, hiding, standing still. I'm going to keep it a little short today. We're on page 102. I should be able to read tomorrow, but I've got a lot of fun stuff we planned today. I might be going to another art museum. I am certainly going to a concert tonight. So if you guys like death metal, Fit for a King tonight, 7 o'clock at the Palladium Times Square, I will be there and I will be broadcasting. I want to thank you guys for this half hour that we spent together, 31 minutes, 40 some odd seconds. And I hope to see you guys again at a later time, either today, tomorrow, or in the future. I will be finishing this book. I do believe this is chapter 9. I say chapter, but you know what I mean, part 9, whatever it may be. When we get to part 11, that means we're 1/3 of the way through the book. Everybody have a good day. Touch some grass. You see a pig, smack that ass. All right, I'm out, you guys, for today.